There's a saying that most of us know: a jack of all trades and a master of none. Most people don't know that that quote has another part to it. A jack of all trades and a master of none is still better than a master of one. In this life, learning all the skills and knowledge that you can is completely necessary. You want to be a sponge to new knowledge and let the knowledge flow through you. And I know some of us try very hard to do that, but for some reason it seems like we can't learn for real. We put the effort in, but still don't seem to retain the information. Yo, how y'all boys doing? How y'all feeling? How y'all coming? Just Breathe back in the chat for y'all boys. It's been a little minute, but we back. Today this video is going to be about learning how to learn, you feel me? A lot of us, we weren't taught the proper way to learn, so I'm going to put y'all boys on game. Without further ado, let's get straight into the video. So while we were kids, we were never taught how to truly learn. So think back to school. Say you were in this math class while you was younger and you went to, say, a different school, or you moved up a grade, which caused you to go to a different school. Most schools have different curriculum, so some schools are more advanced than others. So you go to this new school and then suddenly you get thrown into this math class and you don't know anything that's going on. You feel me? You feel that you're behind and the other students are ahead. You see, with math is a sequential subject, so once you miss one step, you pretty much are out the loop. That causes us to think that we're bad at math when you just missed a couple concepts that the other students learn. And then so we move with the mindset that we're not as good at math going into the different grades, so we're just kind of flunking our way through math. That's just an example. In school settings, we're expected to get material that is at our level. So that if we don't understand the material, then that just means we're dumb. But that isn't the case. You're just missing the first steps, the first aha moments, the conceptual steps. And that's just the start of it. So I'm going to walk y'all through how to learn. But first, we got to speak on procrastination. I already made a whole video on this, so if y'all want to go ahead, click on that, go ahead, because I did pretty good explaining it if I do say so myself. But a quick rundown is, sometimes when we face challenging tasks, our brain reacts in a panic mode. The same pain sensors that you get when, say, you're hurt, activate while you're trying to do whatever this stressful task is. And our safety mechanism to avoid those pain sensors going off is to avoid the task entirely. And procrastination completely hinders learning. You cannot learn if you don't actually do the task that will cause you to learn. It's completely backwards. It's called the Pomodoro Method. So first, you grab a clock, grab a watch, and you set a timer for about 25 minutes, give or take. It could be lower, it could be higher, but generally 25 minutes. And in that 25 minutes, you limit all distractions. So your phone, the game, iPad, TV, pets, you put it all to the side. You're trying to limit distractions so you're only focused on the task at hand. And while you're doing that task, you're solely focused on it. Sometimes your mind may wander, and it's okay. Even if you do second guess and be like and your mind goes astray, even if you do second guess and your mind wanders a little bit, it's going to come back to the work. Most of us don't have troubles sitting down for 25 minutes and focusing on one thing, so I believe y'all could do it. And this 25 minutes is work only. After the 25 minutes is up, you reward yourself by taking some time off. You take a break, go for a walk, get on your phone, draw a little bit, doodle a little bit, do whatever you want. This break, it reinforces that it's okay to relax. Later, I'm going to speak on how we actually learn in this resting state. It's good for us. And as you do this technique, the Pomodoro technique, do not try to do like 15 in one day. Do not try to do like 10 times one day. Don't OD on productivity. You feel me? Chill and get used to the technique. So now we actually on to the learning part. So sometimes we learn something, but we just don't retain the information. We forget what we learned. So first, I'm going to break down what learning is. Learning is a cell in your nervous system called a neuron. And information flows from one neuron to another one through a synapse. We used to think we had a set number of synapses. That's just simply not true. We have millions. You're not going to run out of information that you keep in your brain. You feel me? Your brain isn't going to run out of storage. There's 3 ways to improve and increase the neurons running through your brain. Number 1, and the most important one, is sleep. So if you look while you're awake, these things called metabolites, they come out and they're kind of like toxins, and they go between your synapses and kind of like clog them up in a sense. And while you're awake, these toxins just keep on building up and accumulating in your brain. And they affect your judgment skills. That's why when you're tired, your mind becomes a little bit foggy. You know, it's not as clear as if you were to just wake up from a good night's rest. That's why sometimes when you see somebody extremely tired, they begin to hallucinate. They do things that just don't make sense. When you're sleeping, fluids flow through your synapses, kind of washing them off, getting the metabolites off of them. Think of sleep like housekeeping for your brain. It is necessary. Sleep is necessary to learn new things and reinforce those things that you're learning. When you learn something new and sleep on it, that's when synaptic connections are formed. So it's best to learn in small increments and sleep. Learn, sleep, learn, sleep. It should go just like that, instead of trying to cram all the knowledge into your brain at once. The sleep reinforces the knowledge. Number 2, exercise. Exercise is almost just as important as sleep when it comes to learning. Exercise helps build neurons. And I'm not saying you got to go out there start pushing 225. You don't got to do all that. A simple walk will suffice. Simple, small exercise can dramatically boost your learning capacity. It was a study with mice. They had them exercising and trying to analyze symbols. And they found that these mice were able to better analyze while they were exercising versus while they weren't. It's the same that goes for humans. So go ahead and get your exercise in, man. And number 3, it's just simply exploring new environments. Exposing yourself to new environments by traveling, putting yourself in situations that you're not used to can greatly increase your neuron growth. That's why you see some artists or some content creators having to go on a trip in order to gain inspiration. Travel works wonders. Okay, so some people think that it's only one mode of thinking, but it's actually 2. One is the focus mode. That's the mode we're used to. This focus mode takes up all your attention and is way more exact. And use this mode of thinking when you're learning new concepts. And number 2 is the diffuse mode. This mode allows for more creativity. And as you're in this mode, you could access other stimuli. So you could listen to music. You could watch a YouTube video. This mode is more so for reinforcing what you've already learned. Deepening your understanding, coming to new conclusions, coming to conclusions yourself. And you may be wondering, why do I need to be creative to solve a math problem? All this is your first time learning this concept. This is a new discovery for you. So you need some creativity to be able to come to your own conclusion and make it work for you. This is a new discovery for you despite the history behind it. And you're probably wondering, how are we supposed to use both of these modes? A genius, somebody I'm pretty sure all of us are familiar with, Thomas Edison. He used both these modes by sitting down in a chair, having some ball bearings in his hand, and just sitting there thinking in the diffused mode until he fell asleep and dropped the ball bearings, which woke him up. And then once he woke up, all the knowledge he gained in the diffused mode, he went down and wrote it down and tried to solve problems. And that's the focus mode. And although I did just name a genius as an example, know that millions of people may have solved these problems before you. This is your first time going at it. It's your first time that you've solved it. Sometimes we need to come to our own conclusion with our own creative approach, the same way that the geniuses did. And that approach solidifies the knowledge in our brain. A little bit more on diffuse thinking. The diffuse mode is 24 neural resting states comprised into one. Diffuse thinking is often unconscious when you're resting, kind of like maybe going for a walk, letting your mind roam, doing something completely other than focus. This is necessary because think of a bodybuilder. A bodybuilder can't just cram his workouts into one session before a meet. To gain the muscle, it takes time and repetition. Focus mode thinking, you kind of have pre-built pathways for thinking. So say if you've learned addition and you are faced with an addition problem, you'll sit and focus on it and think a thought that moves along these pre-existing pathways. But how do you go about learning something new? Instead of an addition problem, you're faced with the concept of multiplication and you've never learned that before. You go into the diffuse mode and think more flexibly about it. The diffuse mode doesn't have pre-built pathways. You start to go for different approaches and less about what you know and more open to new ideas. The worst thing you could do with a new concept or problem is to sit there and focus. You have to get your mind completely off of it for a second. Go shower, go take a walk, go do something as long as it doesn't have nothing to do with whatever you're trying to learn. And you can't use both of these modes. You can't use both of these modes at once, bro. You're not a monk. Only the top Shaolin monks can do that, bro. It's something called the working memory. And we used to think that we had 7 slots in our working memory. Think about it, phone numbers. That's why we have to remember them. But that's not true. We only have 4. And these 4 slots, they're located in your prefrontal cortex. Think about working memory like 4 modes. The modes of attention that come out those slots. And these modes of attention that come out these slots and create connections between different ideas. This is the reason why you can't hold too many ideas at once before everything gets foggy and you just don't understand. And some people think that they can multitask, but think of multitasking as killing one of those modes. You don't have a lot of modes. You was at 4, now you're down to 3. It makes the little attention that you have even smaller. So when you're working on new things or something hard, keeping complete focus is necessary. And that's for focus mode. So think of diffuse mode as giving those modes a 5-hour energy drink. The connections are much more faster, but they're random and all over the place. So now you may ask, how do I move my working memory into my long-term memory? And all that takes is practice and repetition. The saying practice makes perfect is there for a reason. The more you practice, the broader the neural pathway gets and the more deeply embedded it becomes. And when you don't practice, and you know that test that you take, and when you don't practice, the metabolite demons come and suck all the knowledge that you just learned up. They suck the neural pathways up. They suck all the neurons up and all the patterns. That's why when we're in class and the teacher's talking and we gain great insight, but we don't study the work or don't practice the work again until the next class, it just vanishes from out our memory. The best way of transferring working memory into long term is spaced repetition. Like I was saying earlier, learn a little bit and then sleep on it. Learn a little bit and then sleep on it. And if you keep that cycle on repeat, then you'll notice the synaptic connections solidify. Think about a wall. If you take time between putting the mortar between the bricks, then you'll create a solid and sturdy wall. But if you rush through it, you can't even call it a wall. It's going to be not solid. It's not going to be thorough. And you ask, how do I enhance the quality of one slot? Kind of combine slots in a sense. You got to create a bite. A bite is basically when you have one idea and another idea and you could combine the two. And you could do that with multiple ideas and you can make the bite bigger and bigger. Think of it like storage, megabyte, gigabyte. Once you got the essential idea down packed, you could pull that bite straight into working memory. But sometimes we memorize, but don't fully comprehend the idea. So you could see the bite in your head, but you can't really pull it out. We could also transfer bites. So say you're good at math, some of those concepts that you've learned in mathematics may be able to be transferred to finance. You could basically transfer these bytes and learn similar information from other bytes. You could also compress bytes into smaller ideas or topics or concepts. You could increase the size of the byte. Think of it like a library full of knowledge. So think about math. You got subdivisions like algebra, trig, calc, and then under those you got even more subdivisions. So for trigonometry, you got the Pythagorean theorem, you got pi, you got all the other stuff. So just think of a byte as like a library full of knowledge. And the more you increase that byte, the more knowledge you have towards a concept. And remember, our brain remembers things based off importance. So like I said earlier, if you don't use the knowledge that you're gaining, it's going to disappear. The metabolic demons are going to come and get it. Don't try to tackle everything at once. Don't try to tackle the big concept at once. Break it into smaller pieces. It's like I was saying for math, for trigonometry. So when you're trying to find, say, the angles of a triangle, don't do all the type of triangles at once. Just focus on one. Try and tackle your biggest flaws right now. Focus on the thing that actually hinders you. The basics make up 80% of the concept. Once you get the basics down, then you're good. When has mastering the basics ever failed you? And please understand, anything that you're learning, you have to put action toward. Just because you watch a video, that does not equate to you understanding the concept. Just because you read a book, that does not mean you actually learned what you read. So I'm going to give you a good learning technique that you could use. This guy named Richard Feynman, he was a Nobel-winning physicist. And he worked at a school and he went in the mathematics department. And he challenged everybody there to explain whatever concept they wanted to in simple words that he could understand. So no hard concepts that he couldn't comprehend. And he would have the ability to reach the same conclusions that they did, and they were studying it. Although Feynman was a genius, this technique that he used amplified it. So to do it, you choose a concept that you want to learn, and you write it at the top of your paper. You'll explain this concept off the dome, off of just straight memory. And as you're explaining it, try to explain it as if you were trying to teach a new student, somebody who never learned the concept before. This is crucial because you end up being creative and gaining a deeper understanding to the concept at hand. And on the flip side, it also enables you to actually pinpoint what you don't understand. And those concepts that you don't understand, you going back into the video or back into the book and you put greater focus on it. When you run into a wordy explanation, create an analogy to it. Try to simplify it. Try to dumb it down. Once you dumb it down, you gain true knowledge on the topic. As you're going through the material, use active recall. Active recall is basically, say you read a page, whatever you got off that page, you close the book and try to recall it from memory. You doing that triggers you to fail constantly. It triggers you to test yourself on the material at hand. And if you don't understand it, you fail. But if you do understand it, then you're good. Most of us, we try to highlight, we try to underline whatever we're learning because it makes it seem like whatever we're highlighting is instantly getting transferred into our brain. But us using active recall is truly transferring the knowledge into our brain. By continuously failing, we learn. Failure is our greatest teacher. Think about it. If you was trying to start up a social media account and you instantly got 1 million views every video, you didn't learn anything from that. But say if you fell off a little bit, or if you wasn't on to begin with, every post you make, you gain new knowledge. You understand what you need to work on. You understand what people like. Failure is the quickest way to success. It's okay to fail. Successful people don't equate failure to worthiness. And some people, they think that they're slow thinkers. But it's okay to be a slow thinker. Sometimes we're up against NASCAR driver thinkers, people who think fast, people who come directly to the conclusion. But those people often make mistakes because they already have a built-in mindset on the answer. While us slow thinkers, we take our time and think. And while we're thinking, we could easily see and analyze where we may have went wrong if we did. Super fast thinkers, they look over the facts. They look over their blunders. And some of us, we also struggle with focus. But that's not a bad thing. If you're struggling with focus, that just means you have an abundance of creativity. Your mind is always wandering. Your mind is always jumping to the next thing. So although you may struggle with focus, that just means you have to work a little harder. But you're abundant with creativity. That's hard to get. And that could really separate you in this world. As the word says, creativity creates things. You're a creator. So to wrap this video up, I just want to tell y'all, become a true learner. Life is just a big lesson. So learn everything that you can. Embrace learning. And to fully learn something, you have to be obsessed with it. Whatever you're learning, you got to think about it all day. You got to go to sleep thinking about it. You got to wake up thinking about it. And once you start doing that, it's going to become so much easier, especially about your passions. And speaking about passions, don't just tunnel vision at one section of a passion. Broaden your passion. It'll make it easier to strive for. Don't just aim for the pinpoint, aim for the boulder. You can learn anything you want in life, but sometimes it's a capacity to proficiency. But do not let that stop you or deter you from getting it. Just breathe, leave in the chat. Y'all stay smooth.